Rushanara Ali, Keir Starmer is not, we understand, in favour of raising corporation tax. It would be interesting that Labour outflanks the Tories on the right and joins up with David Davis and Ian Duncan-Smith on this.
Well, look, it's not about who you join forces with. It's about what's right for the country. And we're not out of the woods yet. We haven't even come out of lockdown. And if businesses are taxed prematurely, which this would be a premature tax increase on businesses that are employing people. We need them to thrive and survive, and we need them to employ more people so we can grow our way out of this crisis as much as possible. Now, that's not to say that we shouldn't have a conversation about taxation. We do need to have an honest conversation with the British people about how we rebuild our country after the biggest crisis since the Second World War. But to do that now, to introduce taxes on businesses now and choke off growth and create potentially much more unemployment, especially when people go off the furlough program, when certain sectors are really struggling, hospitality, tourism, and many other sectors, that would be deeply, deeply damaging for our country. And I think that the politics, David's right about the politics dominating over the economics and national interest here. The Chancellor's got his eye on the election cycle rather than what's right for the country and what's right for businesses and employees.
Stella Creasy, as you know, a big supporter of Keir Starmer, says it's right that we look at corporation tax and actually indeed capital gains tax, and asks how and when those with the broadest shoulders can contribute a bit more to the task of rebuilding our nation. What increase in corporation tax would Labour wear, or would they not?
Well, look, the question is when you tax. If you look at the amount we've got to pay back, 400 billion by the end of this year. After the Second World War, it took a very long time to pay off the costs incurred during the war. We need to think about a very comprehensive way in which we rebuild our society, our economy, our National Health Service, with the ageing population, with intergenerational inequality. So Stella's absolutely right about making sure that those with the broadest shoulders pay the most and contribute the most as we come out of this crisis. The question is, when should we do that? And I don't think it should happen for at least another couple of years, in fact. And most of the evidence, most of the experts, and also the IMF and OECD and other countries, many other countries looking at this, and very few people are saying start taxing businesses right now, increasing.
So David, got the alternative, if not corporation tax, do you think Boris Johnson should cut off the cast iron guarantee he made in the Tory manifesto in 2019? We will not raise the rate of income tax, we will not raise VAT or national insurance. Should that still stand?
I don't think it should. I don't think it was a particularly sensible pledge to make at the time, but even accepting that it was made in good faith at that point, the circumstances are so changed, the challenges that we face in terms of the public finances are that much more difficult. I think the government would be entitled to say, look, this is what we said at the time, we intended to honour that, but circumstances have changed. And you look at those three taxes that you've mentioned, Kirsty, they constitute 64% of all government revenue. And if the government is serious about trying to find substantial sums in taxation in due course, not for a year or two, but in due course, to close off the ability to do very much with those three taxes makes the task that much more difficult and could result in us increasing taxes in a way which is suboptimal and constrains our ability to attract business investment in the years ahead.
Rushanara Ali, you've talked about the pandemic offering us a chance to make a radical reset, much as Beveridge after the Second World War. You're imposing an increase on business taxation at the moment. So do you also support a freeze on personal allowances?
Well, look, what I'm saying is that it's right now, it would be the wrong move to start start taxing people or businesses. We need to stimulate our economy. We need to grow our economy for the foreseeable future. And the other issue is we still don't know whether these new variants could undermine the vaccination effort and could lead to retrenchment in terms of returning to some further restrictions, even if we ease out of these restrictions now. So there are big unknowns still for our economy and our country. And that's why what I would say is that the government actually needs to use this budget to support businesses, support people back into work next week, instead of looking at taxes and freezing personal allowances. We need to support people. We need to support people at the end of what has been the most appalling set of circumstances. Over 120,000 people have died, and our NHS has been on its knees, thanks to, in part, because of the austerity of the last, largely because of the austerity of the last decade. The government needs to learn the lessons of the last decade in terms of leaving
Thank you
public.
both very much.